We're talking a lot about belonging, Lucius. I wanted to ask a little bit more directly about other maybe things that contribute to retention in on your team or Airbnb more broadly. Are there any specific practices or behaviors or structures that you've observed that you believe really has helped impact retention in the team, in addition to some of the practices we've talked about with belonging that maybe we haven't covered yet?
It's honestly a product of coming together more closely through a common shared crazy full of adversity kind of an event. And I take a step back and think about Airbnb and everything that we went through. And I think this is an important part of why we focus so much on the things that we are doing for retention. But let me just set a stage for what's been happening the last 2 years across Airbnb.
Yeah, please.
May 2020. This was a headline in the Wall Street Journal. Airbnb bookings plunge amid coronavirus pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
Bloomberg, April 2020. Will Airbnb become obsolete after the coronavirus? April 2020 also. Is this the end of Airbnb?
Oh my gosh.
It gets better or worse depending on your perspective. Um, May 2020, Airbnb cuts 1,900 jobs, 25% of its workforce as pandemic freezes travel. So we literally lost 80% of our business within a very short period of time. And that forced everyone to take one step more close together. This shared, almost once in a lifetime traumatic rocket ship, amazing ascent of Airbnb, and then the pandemic almost wiping out our entire business very quickly. So, number one, my own personal story, I think adversity builds character. We had adversity at a massive scale across Airbnb. And when that happens, we have created this rallying, and that is part of the actions that we then put in place around retention, which I will get into. I want to complete that story though, because it's a fascinating turnaround. October 2020, how Airbnb pulled back from the brink. Wall Street Journal. Airbnb skyrockets 120% in IPO. Valuation blows past 100 billion, more than Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt combined. November 2021, Airbnb posts best quarter ever, shattering records for profits and revenue. November 2021, Airbnb is reshaping itself for a fast changing future. Everything I just pointed to happened in 2 years. The brink of despair, and now the height of an exciting rebound. And when we were all going through those doom and gloom first press releases that I mentioned to you, we got very close. We focused on what matters most. We reduced our priorities and put a more realistic set of work in front of us. We got closer together and aligned on what is most important in this crisis of our business deteriorating. How do we get it back? Everybody became united out of this really awful business downturn. And there's something unique and special about a common purpose, right? And that is what is ingrained in the Airbnb culture. We're only a 13, 14-year-old company. We haven't been around that long, but this passion to rise above. So I think that was one thing which you would think would really undermine retention, and it would create a lot of chaos, and we wouldn't be able to really get through that. But I think that was the catalyst for us becoming more close, more tight knit, and together, focusing on people and this pandemic. How do we get through it? And caring about our guests and hosts all around the world. People love working at Airbnb. Our mission is to belong anywhere. So we, as employees, felt like we had a higher purpose, a higher calling to our community. And that is really what started us saying, we got to rally, we got to rally, we have to rally. When I speak about the obligation that we have to the world, we have 4 million hosts on Airbnb all around the world. And, our hosts have earned over $100 billion over the course of their career. So we just felt like we have to be there for our community. We have to survive. So when we hit that doom and gloom, we then started focusing on the things that were going to retain people. We started talking about in this pandemic, how do we give people more flexibility? We didn't talk about work life balance, right? That is a very slippery slope. Everybody's work is personal. What is balance for me is not balance for anyone else. So we didn't talk about work life balance. We talked about flexibility. We said, you will, and by the, we're still remote. As I mentioned earlier, we have not returned back to the office. But we said you have to create space for wellness. You have to create space for your family. Your health, personally, your family's health is most important. If you have challenges, please raise them to your manager. If you have an extenuating circumstance, we're all human. We're going through this together. We're isolated. Some of you are feeling lonely. You don't have an outlet. So, turning that around and just flipping it on its head, becoming very hands on and telling people you are safe. You show up as your authentic self. Whatever you're balancing and juggling, you will have flexibility. We're going to prioritize not where you are or what hours you work or days you work. We're going to prioritize your flexibility, however you want to get your work done. And I think that has resonated with people. That has resonated with people because they're looking for that flexibility. I remember a very poignant meeting in my organization where I literally said to my team, "I'm not doing okay this week." Let me share. And that was such a vulnerable thing for me to do, but it reciprocated back so much thanks from the rest of the broader organization because it gave them permission to share why they might be having a bad day or a bad week or balancing something with family or friends or feeling lonely. So I really think embracing that this was our environment, this rallying cry of our business deteriorating and us not wanting to let each other down or our guests and hosts around the world down, and then really tuning into the needs of people and making sure they have what they need. There was a joke I heard recently that if you're a recruiter, all you need to do is chase the companies announcing return to work policies. And whatever company's announcing a return to work policy, you probably can go grab a whole bunch of talent.
That has come up in
Uh,
peer groups. We have had some folks share that as a strategic recruiting tactic. Find the people who are doing that and just go for it.